And can you real quick touch on the government doesn't create jobs?
Right. The government doesn't create jobs because, well, the government can create jobs. It can create public sector jobs, but in
Mhm.
terms of private ADP, like payrolls, which is what like the stock market goes off of. So every month there's like a jobs report by ADP, and they'll say like several 100,000 jobs were created last month. The government doesn't create jobs. The government can get out of the way of creating jobs, and so this idea of like the government actively creates jobs is such a misnomer, and it's such weaselly language to make people believe that the president somehow sits there and figures out how to create jobs. They don't create jobs.
Mhm.
They get out of the way of job creation, or they get out of the way of businesses being started. And that's basically it. If the president has a business friendly environment that people can start businesses under and create jobs, or there's a business friendly environment that businesses will go, hey, it looks like, the Trump tax cuts are going into effect and my business can make a lot more money and I can now hire more people because I'm not going to pay as much in payroll taxes. The government's not creating that job. They're more so getting out of the way and creating an environment where more jobs are created by private entrepreneurs. So,
Right. And if they're creating jobs in public sector, aren't they then just taxing us more dollars to pay for those jobs?
correct. Yeah. Yeah. And California is definitely one of those where the more jobs you create here in California, the more money they make on the back end. So, which just funds the enormous Sacramento apparatus that is. Um, so, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'll stop. I know we have a lot to get through.
Uh, yeah. So, bottom line, whenever they say a president has created this many jobs, it's BS. They don't create jobs. Their environment creates jobs. So,
I mean, that's an artificial number.
No. Then let me stipulate this as an opportunity to engage civilly on this.
Okay.
Fair point. Your president, Donald Trump, lost 2.6 million jobs during his 4 years. We've created 13.1 million. Fine, you can maintain a COVID frame. How about the fact that Joe Biden's created more jobs, 6 times more jobs than the previous 3 Republican presidents combined?
Are you going to tell me
Sean,
that the average family, where we have 2/3 of Americans now living paycheck to paycheck,
it was 70% under
Hang on.
Trump? That was
That's not
70%.
true.
It was
Under Donald
70% under Donald Trump. living
Pre-COVID,
paycheck
we had
to
the
paycheck.
lowest unemployment rate for every demographic.
We have the lowest black
let me
unemployment in
pause
history,
you.
and you and I are living with the lowest unemployment in our lifetime, Sean.
We
You
had
can't
it for
make that
every
up.
demographic, and the economy was
Black
humming along.
unemployment's record low under Joe Biden.
Okay. We had historic low after historic low under Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. I mean, but he's
here's what I don't
cleaned
want to have
Trump's
happen.
clock, Biden, in terms of the progress on job creation. Look at what he's done on
so
jobs.
What would you grade Joe Biden's presidency? Because
Well,
you're at odds with the American people and the Democratic Party.
I'm just dealing with the facts. I'm dealing with the facts.
What is your grade for
I'm going to go back. Let's talk. You brought up 6 topics.
You got to
Now,
answer some questions.
I'm answering the ones in order. You brought up the economy. On the economy, let's talk about the economy.
You want to give him an A?
Inflation, stubborn around the globe. Let's talk about inflation. It's down 40% since last summer, 10 months in a row, 4.9%. He was just with the UK Prime Minister at 6.9%. Is that because of Biden's?
I think
Fed
Biden's
policy
economic and energy policies
directly impacted the UK's inflation?
No, I am
Or the
telling
fact that France is 5.5% or Germany's at 6.1%? On inflation, we're moving in the right direction. On the issue of the border security,
we inherited 1.4% inflation. It went up to 40-year high after 40-year high.
Globally, because you just brought up.
okay, so they're yelling at each other. I kind of want to just kind of cut through the BS of what they're yelling about. So inflation obviously happened because of COVID. There is no denying that. Most economists believe that COVID or inflation absolutely happened because of COVID. Very simple. You shut off all of the supply. There's still demand, less supply, more money chasing goods. Combine that to make it a real firestorm of everything going wrong. Take trillions of dollars, pump it into the economy, whether through businesses or stimulus checks or stuff like that. Now you have even more money, chasing even fewer goods. things are just out of control. So inflation is obviously rampant around the globe. How people are kind of tackling it is one way or another. Jerome Powell has been trying to bring down inflation through rate hikes. I don't want to get too wonky here because that's not the point of this podcast. But yeah, it's still high. And in terms of California, we all sit here and look at, and this is kind of relevant because Newsom was just championing the fact that his new petroleum or oil company watchdog went into effect just a couple days ago. Gas is still $5 a gallon. Okay. Gas was shot up after COVID, after all of that, when inflation started and when there was more demand. It has not come down. So I have not seen a reduction in inflation in terms of at the gas pump. I haven't seen it in terms of my grocery bill, in terms of energy that I'm paying for. SDG&E keeps raising our rates over and over again. So I don't know what he's talking about that it's down 40%. It's probably still really high. It must have started from a really high spot and come down 40% because it still feels like inflation is incredibly high across anywhere you go in California. What do you think?
All of our basic necessities are outrageously expensive. My husband and I are like, where's all the money going? And you look at it, we're like, we bought food. We paid our utility bill, And yeah, I looked today when I was out, I passed a gas station, 485, and Saturday it increases 8% tax hike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's going into effect this weekend.
The first.
Yep. July 1st, there will be a spike in the gas tax in California right around 4th of July. So happy birthday, America. And you get taxed more.
Yeah. Anyway, just everything is so much more expensive. And I have 4 kids, and buying them food is insane. To have a water line, just to have access to water, not actually getting water is costing us so much a month. And then getting water is like, okay, now we just paid 4 times that, and the gas bills have gone up and everything. And then, because gas has gone up, of course, now our waste collection, their fees went up because they're being affected. And inflation hasn't come down in California.
No, I mean, it's already expensive to live in California. And then you add inflation on top of it. It's gotten even worse to live in California.
Yes.
Hell, I go to Trader Joe's and I feel like I just buy a couple things and I walk out. It's like, okay, that'll be $100. And you go, what the heck did I buy? Some milk and eggs and bread for the week. I'm not lucky enough to get free eggs like you do. So
they're not free.
That's true.
You think chicken food's expensive?
It's probably more expensive cost per egg for you because you have to do all the stuff to take care of the chickens. I just go to the store and pick up eggs.
Speaking of, I need to tell my kids to lock them up so that we can continue to get eggs. Anyway, moving on.
For Trump's dismal jobs record related to COVID,
it wasn't a dismal jobs record.
COVID's relationship to inflation globally. And by the way, COVID and immigration impacting our inflation.
Let me stop you. All right, so I would assume you're going to give Biden an A. Here's the problem that Joe Biden has. You're arguing, you're fighting, you're battling, you're articulate. We could sit here for 3 hours, probably have a beer or 2 in the middle of this, and you can keep going. Here's the problem. Your president can't have this conversation. He's not capable of it. Now my question is a serious one.
All right.
Okay, is Joe Biden up to the job of being president? And as a little reminder, take a look at your president in the monitor.
Okay, I'm going to skip over this because it's just a montage of Biden doing dumb things.
You had infrastructure week every week for 4 years.
We're still importing them all from Taiwan, which is about to be taken over by China.
We had $4 billion proof point just here in California with Applied Materials bringing semiconductor investment back here in the state of California. My point being,
we're going to talk about
real results, but bipartisan results, real results, jobs programs. The IRA, I know you don't like it. I mean, hundreds of billions of dollars in green energy investment, mostly in red states. You're the biggest beneficiary of the IRA.
He raised taxes on oil, gas, coal, pensions, and, quote, taxes corporations. Corporations don't pay taxes. They pass the cost on to consumers. That's all they do. You know that.
On the issue of energy independence, I think it was your second of the list of items.
Do you think he's cognitively strong enough to be president?
I have conversations with him all the time, yes. And I'll tell you what.
You do?
I'm dead serious about that. I've talked to him when he's been overseas. I've been in Air Force One, Marine One. I've been in the limo with him. I've spent time with him privately.
But you never answered my question directly. How many times does your phone ping a day, people saying you need to get in this race because they agree with me that he's not up to the job?
A little stumble there by Gavin Newsom. I think it's like wearing him down like a police interview. Like, how many times do you get pings that you need to run for president? Because Biden's a demented old vegetable.
I see where you're going with that.
I'm asking.
No, and I'm not answering.
Under any circumstances would you get in this primary?
No.
None.
I really am proud. I think he's a man of decency and character. I'm really proud of the president. I'm proud of what he's accomplished.
Is he strong enough to be president? That's
strong enough. Look what he just did to McCarthy. He ran circles. Look at the vote card.
I didn't like the vote. I wouldn't have voted for it.
Exactly. Kevin got played by the president of the United States. I'm for results. I
don't think the American people benefit. I like the plan that would have saved $4.8 trillion. All right. Now, so we're at a point, I think you are far more articulate, far more versed, far more energetic.
So is at this point where you're like, could Hannity kiss his ass anymore on this interview? Because it's just like,
crawl over there and run your fingers through his hair and tell him how much you love his hair, Hannity.
Just whisper sweet nothings into Newsom's ear. Just, I almost feel like if he did run for president, Hannity might vote for him. The way he's going after, going, oh, you're so passionate, and so wonderful.
I have this theory that people are going to come calling because I don't think in your party they think he's the guy. No. Just my thought. Now I've got a bunch of. Well, look, I don't want to make this an argument. I want you to explain, because my argument to you is conservative policies work. Okay. I don't care if it's Ronald Reagan. I don't care if it's Newt Gingrich's contract. I don't care if it's Donald Trump's 4 years as president.
Got it.
I believe his policies work. Peace through strength work, building up our military, building a wall, enforcing law and order, energy independence, which Biden gave up, which he didn't bring up.
Which I'm happy to direct.
Let me show you a list of corporate headquarters that are leaving your state in
let's bring it on. I look forward to having this conversation.
There you go.
I'm well aware.
Corporate headquarters, they're leaving. Look at San Francisco in particular. They're closing down because they can't keep their product in the store because they're getting robbed. I got another one for you. Seasonally adjusted business applications. You always bring up Florida. Yeah. I compared you to Florida. I think you have a higher population, if I'm not mistaken.
A significantly higher population.
Why are they doing better in business formulation?
Well, we'll have to take a look at that in more detail.
Take a look.
I'm happy that we're looking forward. How many more of these you have? Let's go.
So let's see. And if you can't see and you're listening on audio, basically shows Florida and California. Florida in 2020 had 500,000 jobs. 440,000 jobs. I mean, 2020 and 2021 probably makes sense because California was basically shut down. No one was going to start a business in the middle of the pandemic, in the middle of how many lockdowns did, we were out of it and then we were back into lockdowns and stuff like that. No one had the faith to start a business. It does spread out a little bit more between 2022. I did look this up because I was interested in this as well. Let's see if I can find which tab this is. Hold, please. Are you
going to be a Democrat again here?
Am I going to be a Democrat again?
Yeah, I mean, are you going to suddenly shock us all with your, here's the thing, the Democrat was right?
Business formation statistics by state. As of, this is just recently. So let's see. I'm going to do not month to month. Let's do year to year. This is on census.gov. Year to year, Florida is up 3.4% year to year from 2022 to 2023, 53,528 business applications. Now, California is up 17.7%. However, the number is only 46,000. So there actually was more job creation or business applications year to year between California and Florida. There's way more in Florida. Okay. if you look at the raw numbers, yeah, the percent, it's very clear there were way more in Florida than there was in California, and California has a higher population. So yes, Florida is actually beating California on this point. And the fact that it's up 17%, I don't know why the big jump. Maybe it's because in 2022, maybe we were still feeling the after effects here in California. It's crazy to think 2022 we were still kind of feeling the after effects of COVID and how crazy that was. So maybe there was more confidence that people were like, okay, we're finally out of COVID. We're done. We're not going backwards. So maybe there was more people. But yeah, there were more business applications in Florida, bottom line. And that's from census.gov. Maybe they did.
It was all the people that left California, went to Florida, and were like, well, time to start a business here.
Absolutely. Texas didn't do so well. Actually, they were down 3.5%. Only 38,000. The biggest percentage boost, oddly enough, looks like New Mexico. Do you want to move to New Mexico? Because that's where all the jobs are going. Nobody talks about that.
New Mexico, yeah.
Percentage-wise, it was the most, 24%. But they only created like 2,700 business applications.
Okay.
But that's interesting. It's a huge jump. And Arizona, just for 5.6%, 10,000 business applications. But again, if you're comparing the fact that Florida has less population than California, it does not look even close.
Right.
Zoo, bring them all on. Let's have this conversation.
Okay. Let me ask, this is a tough question for you.
I don't think it will be. Well, let's find out.
All right. So you're the first governor in history that has had a net migration out of the Golden State. Go west, young man.
Yep.
I lived here by the way, I lived here 5 years.
Horace Greeley.
I was the poorest guy in Santa Barbara at the time in the early 80s. If you look at, I want you to really look at this and explain for the years 2021 and 2022 why Florida is taking in nearly 1,000 people a day and you're losing 800 people a day. Right. They're leaving. Tell me why they're leaving your state.
So we'll stop at 3, or you want to do the whole?
No. We'll just answer one at a time.
18 states had declines in population. California's was 0.3%. You didn't bring up any of the red states that had decline in populations. It's an interesting fact, and I don't see it on here. An interesting omitted fact.
What's that?
Per capita, more Floridians moved to California than Californians moving to Florida. That I don't imagine
check.
is an.
I feel like we should have like a fact check sound effect. This is from PolitiFact, because they actually fact checked this exact statement. Per capita, more Floridians move to California than Californians moving to Florida. Let's see. Let's see what data shows. Hold on, I got to get my highlighted. In raw numbers, close to 13,000 more Californians moved to Florida than the other way around. However, this does not account for the state's population size, as California has about 17 million more residents than Florida, and Newsom specified he was citing per capita. So, per number, there were more Californians going to Florida. So he used that whole per capita to make it seem like it's more of a fair fight. Newsom's team provided as evidence an analysis of data compiled by researchers at the University of Minnesota. According to calculations from Newsom's team, close to 90 per 100,000 Californians moved to Florida in 2021, compared with nearly 123 per 100,000 Floridians who moved to California. Let's see. More Floridians moving to California per capita than the other way around is part of a nearly 2-decade trend. But the migration levels are small. Quote, historically, migration exchanges between Florida and California have been rather inefficient, with net migration being close to zero. And the overall numbers of migrants have been rather low considering the population sizes of the two states. So the ruling is that while, yes, it is technically true, it needs more information, and that it's not statistically significant. That doesn't really make that much of a meaningful difference. So He's trying to use this per capita, but it's such a small margin that in reality, it doesn't really mean anything. But in raw numbers, there are more people moving to Florida from California than the other way around.
Okay.